Test. All right, it's 6:03 on the 6th, and I'm calling the Economic Planning and Development Committee meeting to order. Everybody is here. Um, so we will go ahead and move on to our first public comment period. We will move on to reading and approval of minutes. What do I hear?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Is there a
Second.
second? And a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And the minutes are approved as submitted. Reports, communications from city officers. Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick little programming note, and then we'll get into a little bit more of an update on the cabin over at the Cultural Center. So, first of all, just want to invite everyone out Thursday at the Cultural Center from 6 to 9. We are going to have one Mauldin, which is going to be our celebration, community celebration, but also the revealing of our new city logo and brand. And so we're very excited about that. So we're asking everyone to come out and enjoy and have a fantastic time. And then next Saturday, we will be hosting our annual Blues and Jazz Festival, which is going to be exciting as well. Fun-filled evening of music, fun. It's going to be a spectacular event, and also unveiling our latest art trail piece. So that's a little fun-filled weekend for next weekend as well. So that's all I have on kind of just some programming notes. Do want to ask Mr. Fleeman if he wants to come on up and kind of walk us through. I know that in a report I sent out this morning, gave a little bit more, some detail as to the situation over at the cabin at the Culture Center grounds. But Mr. Fleeman can kind of share a little bit more about what's going on there and some of the challenges that we're facing with that small little facility there.
Yes. So during the freeze earlier this year in January, the water supply line to the sink in the cabin froze, and so the Mr. D's the operator contacted us and had to shut the water off. Water's been off since it was the end of January. I think it was the week of the 26th. Unfortunately, earlier this month, some of my parks guys went to go water some flowers around the cultural center, and they misidentified which valve was which, and they turned the water back on to the cabin, and it ran unabated in the cabin for a significant period of time. Um, there was damage to the drywall, all of the flooring, all of the subfloor, and some electrical. Unfortunately, there were a few things that contributed to it. Like the back door was a cheap wooden door that was untreated wood. When it got saturated, it swelled and it sealed. And then so the only way was to get out was through the front door, through the weather strip, which abated the flow, some to say, so that it kind of backed up a couple inches in there. And ultimately, I've gone in there, we've inspected everything. There's a significant amount of drywall work we're going to have to do to restore. And the longer we wait for him to get his stuff out of there, the more mold could potentially spread. We have to rip out the entire floor and put in a new one, as well as some of the electrical that was in the floor got fried underneath the water. So at this point, Public Works is willing to do the work. We're waiting on the tenant to get his materials out of there. We can't do any work with them with freezers and everything else in there. We expect that when given the opportunity, it'll be about 10 to 14 days of nonstop work to restore the inside. Right now, the estimated cost is around $4,000 or $5,000. Based on what we've seen, there's always a potential for additional expenses the deeper you go into the structure. And being the structure what it is and how old it is, we don't necessarily know what we're going to find when we start removing the walls and the floor.
And to add to that, we have been in communication with the tenant, and we're just, as Matthew pointed out, we're just waiting for him to take his contents out of it so we can actually get through it more in depth. And so we're hoping that if he's able to remove his freezers and things in the next hopefully week or so, then we may be able to get it back up and ready to open early May. But at this point, we're not sure yet until we get into it for sure. So. And yeah, very good. I cover everything. Cool. That's kind of where we are with that right now.
Any questions? Ms. King?
Thank you, Mr. Matney. I guess my only question is, does the tenant understand that we cannot do anything until that he will be further delayed opening his season if he does not get his freezers and equipment out so Public Works can do the work?
Currently, Greg is in conversation with the property owner. There's his current request is for the city to store all the stuff inside the building. We don't necessarily have the place, and there's also an inherent liability.
Yeah, no, we're not at this point considering either relocating his stuff for him or paying for storage of his contents. His lease had expired, and we were on a month to month. We were unaware. We knew of the break back in January, but the staff who were doing something else out in that area were not necessarily aware of the break, nor so it was incidental and accidental turning the water on, but it also had been sitting there for 6 weeks unfixed.
3 months.
How many?
It was
I thought it was in the late January.
end of January, but you'd have January,
Okay,
February,
yeah,
March.
almost 3 months. So there's definitely responsibility on both sides of that, but at this point, we're trying to work with him as best we can and convey the sooner he can relocate or extract that equipment out, we can get in there and do what we can because ultimately we've got a good estimate of what it's going to take to fix it, and if the longer it sits, as Matthew said, could create additional problems, which could mean that there's more that needs to be done if it's salvageable at all.
And as the temperatures start to rise, then, we know what can happen with the mold issues. So.
Yeah, because initially what we anticipated was, because when we went in there, it was early on, is we would do what's called like a Katrina cut, where we basically cut off the bottom 12 to 24 inches of drywall all the way around the structure. The longer we wait, it might be a total removal of drywall.
Or total loss of the building because we also discovered something else.
Oh, well, yes. I mean, there's yes,
There's more.
It does have some termite damage and it's pretty extensive and probably will necessitate significant treatment to include tenting to mitigate the pest infestation. And then afterwards, just a monthly treatment like we do with all of our facilities.
Yeah. But that's included in the cost factor,
Yeah.
the estimate that Mr. Fleeman gave already. So that's not an addition to. So we still think it's, unless there's something more substantial, we think it's salvageable. The rent that the city generates from the lease of that facility still covers more or less that same cost. We receive about $6,000 a year, so we're just kind of wait. But the longer it takes for us to get in, the more substantial it could be. So we're trying to encourage that as much as we can.
So with income at $6,000 a year, what do we anticipate all of the repairs totaling?
So right now we're still in that 4,000 window, but that could change depending on once we do get access to the property, once the contents have been removed, if there's anything else that we haven't anticipated. Plus, that's also staff doing the work.
Yeah, those are it's simply material costs.
Material cost.
Labor costs, equipment, that's the soft costs are already kind of incorporated.
Why didn't we fix the issue? I mean, it's 6 weeks.
Sure. I believe that the initial burst, the responsibility was on the tenant.
Yes. So the language in the contract is he's responsible for everything inside to maintain everything inside. And so we actually had a similar incident happen 2 years ago. It happened in his storage room where the water line to his hot water heater froze and broke. He also in that situation took several months, but as per the lease agreement, he's responsible for that infrastructure. And so he repairs it when he wants to. We don't have access inside the building.
So the repair to the line was not our responsibility.
Not at all.
Because the incident occurred inside the structure, not outside where it would have been our responsibility.
Yeah, so it happened. There's a sink in the corner, and it's the frozen line actually happened just several inches away from the cutoff where the water line plugged into the bottom of the sink inside the structure.
Additional questions?
Just real quick, I'm just curious. In past years, did the tenant turn the water off to where it was prepared for the winter? I'm just thinking about, I know, yeah, I know it's not a good analogy, but our neighborhood pool, we just cut everything off at the end of the season because there are PVC pipes and there's no insulation, and that keeps them from freezing and busting. So, I just am curious what has been done in past years to alleviate this problem.
There has been
Anything.
nothing done.
Okay.
I mean, the structure, there's no insulation in the structure. There's nothing to mitigate freezing.
My final statement would be, as some have said, that we all know the cabin has no historical value, Mr. Mayor, or, or reference to the city. So obviously at some point, I mean, I personally like the cabin and I like the feature there, but yeah, we would have to, as you said, Mr. Duncan, entertain the total cost and is it worth repairing if you get in there and find more damage and more expense? Because in the meantime, your guys are being pulled from doing what they do every day to be able to repair that. So,
Well, there's really only a few of us who specialize in this type of work, so it's going to be me. and
Of course.
two other guys. So we'll find time.
But your point is still valid. Their time's valuable doing other things than
yeah,
drywall
yeah,
repairs.
yeah.
But
Flooring
it's
and tiling and water lines. Yeah, yeah.
But thank you for the update.
Keep us in the loop.
we will
All
absolutely.
right.
Yes, sir.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Moving on to unfinished business, of which there is none, which takes us to new business, fireworks and drone ordinance.
I believe. Are you taking it in mind? I'll do it. Okay. So all right. Well, good evening. Okay, so something that we wanted to propose for tonight was a discussion, not necessarily any particular action to forward to council or anything, but a discussion regarding the potential revisions to Chapter 20, Fire Prevention and Protection, Article 4, Fireworks, to modify language to simplify the approval process and add additional language to address other aerial displays like drones, things like that. So currently, the code is very just simple, and it says the city council may, upon application, grant permits to persons or organizations for special fireworks displays. That's all it really says. So in the last few years, only the city and Bridgeway have engaged in public firework displays, and they were contained to special events. So like the last night of the city's concert series or national holiday like Independence Day, 4th of July, with Bridgeway Station. With the city stadium, GE Vernova Park nearing completion with the rise of drone displays, staff would like to propose a series of modifications to update and modernize the ordinance. For discussion purposes, we're proposing just these were things that were on our mind. Updating the ordinance to reflect administrative approval with council notification, include language pertaining to firework permits issued by state fire marshal's office, added inspection requirements by the Mauldin Fire Department for both fireworks shows and other aerial displays. Include language pertaining to pyrotechnics that may be used at the city stadium. So this would be less than full vertical explosion, but maybe sparkler type devices and things like that. And then any other language suggested by council. If the committee believes that revisions are warranted, a draft ordinance would be drafted and brought before the committee for consideration at a future meeting. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me turn my microphone before Jeannie texts me. I'm going to go ahead and open this up for discussion. Thoughts? Or do you want me to kick it off? I don't know that we really need it. Yeah, I'm looking at it. When you look at fireworks themselves, there's already an entire section on pyrotechnics in South Carolina code, and that's what our fire department has to follow. Um, I don't know that we need to get into the weeds on those code issues and anything that NFPA might address. You know, so I don't know that we need to monkey around with that. Again, the firework permits issued by the state fire marshal's office. If we want to receive some sort of notification, I think that's fine. But you have to be a licensed shooter to to launch fireworks. I don't know that I want us to look at a lot of language about the fire department dealing with drone displays because, and I know that government takes a long time to catch up with technology, but that's not their wheelhouse. Drones are not where our fire department is, and anybody who operates drones for a commercial reason has to be licensed by the FAA as well. Um, I the only thing that we might want to look at, and this is just from an operational standpoint, the pyrotechnics that are used at GE Vernova Park, in talking with other stadium operators, and we've got some large stadium facilities in this state. What do you do? How do you do it? What? How do you keep everybody safe? And just do that from an operational standpoint. I just don't know that we really need a lot of new language and create a solution where a problem might not exist.
No, I would agree. Broad is better. I don't, I think we've gotten by with this. Drones are not fireworks, and to your point, that was my thought too. Was the FAA regulates them already, and very heavily and very strictly. So, I mean, if they can get a permit to fly out there, then I can promise you it's been paid close attention to, just based upon where we are in relationship to GSP and the airspace.
Sure. The only thing on the drones is that the FAA doesn't issue permits for drone displays. So if you are doing, to my knowledge, if you're doing an aerial display like a fireworks show equivalent for drones, um, unless there's something I'm not thinking about, there's not any type of
Yeah,
clearance requirements from spectators, things like that.
So they won't issue. So the FAA doesn't. So I used to
Yeah.
I used to have my Part 107, which is a drone pilot license for commercial use.
Yeah.
And so they don't issue permits, but you also they would have to, in that airspace out there, have to have a waiver from the FAA office at GSP for anything that they did, just based upon its location at GSP. So no, it wouldn't necessarily be a permit, but it would have to, they would have to go out there, and if the operator wanted to keep his license and in good standing, he would have to go through the channels of the local FAA office and do all those sort of things and get the clearance. Basically, it's not a permit, but it's clearance. So
we don't want any checks or balances on what they're doing.
Ms. King, do you have any thoughts?
For now, I think my only thought, I agree with what both of you said, but I don't think it would be a bad idea to reach out to some other stadiums and see how they handle the fireworks situation. We have plenty of examples or, I mean, places that you could ask how they control that. As far as what Mr. Steinbach was saying, I don't know if the stadium itself wants some kind of check and balances or if we want something to make sure that that license operator has checked all the boxes and done all the things. But I can't imagine that license operator wouldn't do that if they were a valid operator because they don't want to lose their license. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, drones are very, very heavily regulated. And in order to get your Part 107, it takes a lot of work and it's easily lost. And they're paid very close attention to. So
Yeah.
If anything, maybe just saying something that there's proof that they are indeed licensed or whatever. I don't know, but
Well, right now we don't regulate it at all. So
Right.
if it happens, it's like, you know. So, I mean, because they don't have to come to us for anything. They don't have to ask for permission for anything. And it's not just there. That was just the two clear examples. You could have an HOA that wants to do a drone display, or a corporation right now. We
Right.
regulate food trucks,
But see,
yeah.
once again, in those situations, if the person's doing it for money,
Yeah.
they have to have their Part 107. And if they have their Part 107, they're going to have to do, if they're in airspace that's controlled, which is most of Greenville,
Right.
they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to check in with the local office and get clearance, basically.
Because all we would require right now is a business license.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fire marshal doesn't check drone displays for proper fallout clearances. They do on fireworks displays, but it's not. That's more of a. It's not in our ordinance that they do that, but there are certain things that they do. But that's I think, part of the state licensing process. They have to check in the local fire marshal as well. 'Cause I know that like our fire marshals will go out and check their display setups. So.
Which I think they absolutely should.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But that is also within their purview under state law.
Yeah.
It is not under their purview under state law for them to deal with drones.
Right. Yeah.
I
Do we? Oh, that's why we're having a discussion.
yeah, I just think unless, for me, unless there's something that has happened or scenarios that we need to address, yeah, like I said, I just see this as a solution looking for a problem.
Okay. Do we still want applications to come to full council for approval for fireworks? It's not really been a practice, but that's something that we're trying to clean up as well. Like, is that the proper process for that? Do we want to do that?
Again, I'm not a firefighter.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that the fire marshal should be the one to sign off on that,
right,
instead of us.
So maybe there is an opportunity to clean the language up from the standpoint of who gives approval, because I
Yeah.
I wouldn't want people to have to wait around on us to vote on whether or not they're going to have fireworks.
Exactly, because sometimes those come in last minute.
Right.
Because we have been sent it to the EPD chair as part of like the packet that like Caitlin will send out, or yeah, but we don't have a lot of those either, so it's not like it's been a huge issue. But we were thinking, hey, if we're gonna look at this a little bit differently, let's talk about all the things that could.
Yeah, I mean, I would be fine with streamlining it from a standpoint of just something like you've got, administrative approval is fine. I don't even, if you want to let us know, great, but so we can go and watch, I guess.
That's what I was
like. Yeah, maybe we leave.
Cool, there's a drone display.
Right. No, of course you'll be invited. Okay. I mean, and we can just keep it as is, and we've been kind of running it through the more of the committee chair process for like our amped up, application includes the fireworks on it. I know. Yeah, we knew that there might be more frequency.
But like when I sign off on those, that's an alcohol request. That's not a fireworks request.
Right.
I'm not signing off on fireworks.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to clean up that language, let's have it so that the fire marshal is the one who signs off on the request for a fireworks display.
He's probably a bit more.
Yeah, because there's not really a permit. I kind of just been rolling with what we've been doing forever and ever. So, but now Bridgeway's starting to do fireworks. It's like, hold up, now we actually got to look at the ordinance.
Well, and when you have HOAs that do fireworks displays, I mean, the code talks about what a public display is and the qualifications of the shooter. So maybe that's where we tighten up that language.
Absolutely. Yeah. The good thing is they're always involved now. So that's not like we're not doing something there. So that's good. Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Don't even.
All right. Well, that'll bring us to our second public comment period. Anyone? Committee concerns? Then what do I hear on adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we are adjourned at 6:28.
We'll sell it on the black. It's got a certificate of authenticity, so it's gotta be worth something. You really on the bridge tonight? Hey, I'm trying to put pressure on you guys, but I gotta try to be at sunset before 7:30 for the flag football game. Seahawks, just Panthers. It's gonna be a nail biter.
All right, we'll call our second and last committee meeting of the evening. Hey, look, it's a recreation committee meeting back-to-back months.
Months in a row.
What is up? We've got Mr. Mark Steenback and Michael Reynolds joining me here, as well as Bart Kamlander in the audience, as well as many other fine folks in the audience as well. First off, we have public comment. Is anyone here for public comment, either here or online? Hearing none, we will move on to reading and approval of the minutes. What is the pleasure of this committee?
Make a motion to be approved as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion of a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. We will now move on to reports. So we will hear from Recreation Director Bart Comlander.
Sorry, good evening, guys. Just a couple updates. Football, baseball, softball, lacrosse, flag football are going good. I'm gonna try to get you out of here so you can get to your game. But parks are full, and that's what we want. And it's always lovely getting out at sunset because everybody wants to back in over there. So, but all those going well. I was looking at our numbers today on our sports center that's doing really good. I think we're going to make our target of what we need to try to generate that income coming in there as well. We're doing really well on that. Senior center is going well. We'll get into that discussion here in a minute, but everything's going well and within the department. Budget's looking good. So one thing project we're working on at the sports center is changing all the old lights to LED lights. And so that was in our non-capital. And we're going to probably finish up next budget year with that, but we've got probably 60 to 70% of the lights switched to LED lights at the sports center. We're going to try to hit the senior center as well next year too. So if you have any questions, that's all I have.
Very good. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. There is none. We'll move on to new business, and we're right back here with the senior center. Is that going to be you again, or is
It's going to be me and Gregory. I can kind of start us off, and then Gregory's got some better numbers about some things as well. But we had a discussion when we met with the guys that did the master plan about some of the out of city people that come, or seniors that come to the senior center, and we don't charge anything up there. Everything's pretty much free. And so me and Seth and Gregory had a discussion about maybe charging after the master plan did their thing and told us, look, you're one of the only cities that doesn't charge. Now, Simpsonville does not charge, nor does Fountain Inn or Greer. Greer charges a little bit. So what we reached out, Little Part States, they charge, it should be in your packet that you got. Some cities in the low country that charge. And what we did is, as staff, we looked at what they offered and what we offered, and that's kind of how we came up with the price where we did. And it's just costing. When we take those buses out, gas, we do charge a little gas for the seniors. But the building's operating. I looked at the utility line item today, and we're a little over just because half that building's on natural gas, and so natural gas has gone up, and so it just costs a lot to operate these buildings, and so we feel like that charging them I think it's $10. It's I think a fair price, and so the task that we're going to have to figure out, and Gregory kind of talked to you about that, who is in the city and who is out in the city. Mauldin has a lot of zip codes. You can be inside the city and have the same zip code as somebody that's not in the city. And so that's something that we've got to, we're going to get a program and see if we just want to figure that out, that part, but we could do that. And so I think Gregory's got some numbers and he'll elaborate a little bit more on the zip codes and he can tell you.
Good evening. So just to backtrack just a little bit here. So the senior center currently has 2,792 active members. And as you can see in your report, 755 of those are non-residents who are active members in this, who attend the senior center. So it's like a 27% mark here. And so I asked the staff to pull for me just an idea of kind of the location and where some of these folks are coming from. And so, and I might pronounce some of these a little different here, but you have folks who are coming from Spartanburg, from Duncan, from Inman, Innery, Joanna, Lawrence, Lyman, Moore, Woodruff, Campello, I guess, or
Campobello.
Campobello. There you go. Thank you. Fountain Inn, Gray Court, Greer, Pona Path, Liberty, Long Creek, Pelzer, Piedmont, Pendleton, Pickens, Seneca, Piedmont, and 6 Mile. Now, we do have at least 4 zip codes, which is 29605 and 29607, 29680, 29681, where you have residents who might be residents, but the way it extends, you might have some that might not be in the city because of the way the zip codes kind of like spread out and who lives in what section that is incorporated and non-incorporated. And so what we're now trying to do is with at least with these 4 zip codes, try to figure out who is actually a resident, who is actually not a resident, but is attending the senior center. And so we've been active and started this process of really trying to identify even more of these residents who are non-residents that are being a part of the senior center. So again, based off of the study that we just got done with Bolton and Mink, it would be good to start considering what do we want to do as the city grows. With the stadium coming online and a lot of other things that are happening, more people are going to start being attracted to the area. They're going to hear about, because we're always trying to look at, even with the rec department, how do we increase programming? How do we increase certain activities even at the senior center? How do we continue to make things better? So if our program is top notch and you've got all these folks coming in from different areas because of what we're already providing, we can also look at the potential of more people starting to come, but they're not non-residents. So what do we do to try to offset the cost if we can and still not be a burden on seniors, but at least they have what, quote unquote, some type of skin in the game, versus our residents who are taxpayers who should not have to pay because they are taxpayers.
Where's the bulk of the funding come from for the senior center? And the bulk of it comes from general fund, right?
90+% from the
General fund.
And we did ask the question because that we do get some funding from GCRA.
Mhm.
And we did ask the question, if we were to implement a fee, would that cause any issues with us still applying for any grants? And the answer is no. Even if we charged the residents, it would still not impede upon the city applying for grants and still getting funding from GCRA. So we would still be good there.
advocating for.
No, we're not. I'm just
Right.
that was just the response from Francisco, who came to spoke with us last month.
Yeah, and that's one of our biggest concerns too, is in talking about this, is not having folks misconstrue that we're only focused on non-resident members or non-resident attendants. Is should they, and this stems out of the budget discussion we had a few weeks ago, should they pay a fee? And if so, what should it be? And that's it. So.
Any questions?
Do we still do in recreation? We still do in city versus out of city. So I'm assuming we have figured out a way to figure that out already, or is it just kind of
Honor system.
We're on Civic Rec, so I could put 1214 Butler Road, and it's the system, especially if you're doing online, it's just going to register. You could put a zip code in there, it's not going to kick you out and put you in there. That's the thing one thing I don't like about Civic Rec, it does not recognize whether you live inside the city or if you live outside the city. So we're probably missing some money on that. So it's just hard that it's just that system does not recognize it.
There are ways for us to do this, but we just got to figure out a process for it. Because I mean, you could simply use Google Maps or you could use the GIS system and you could just type in the address and it'll tell you. There's also a way to automate that process, but to get the KPIs from Civic Rec to talk to Google, you're just going to need an intermediary step. But it's not hard. It just needs to be done.
Sort of open API with some sort of AI.
Yeah, I meant API. I said KPI. Wrong thing. But yeah, I mean, it's you can dot 3,000 points on Google's with a CVS file or CSV file or just a Google spreadsheet or just a spreadsheet. You then have to go back and look to see who's where and how often do you run that and you know.
So we've already begun to talk internally about validating and doing checks and balances and having an understanding it would take staff to take some time to do that extra step, as well as every year or that time frame of going back through and seeing whether or not those folks are still in the active areas, because you might have someone who might even live in Mauldin, end up moving outside someplace else, and they're still using that address. And so if you continue to have that re-verification process, that'll help us, it's just going to be some more manpower and things that we have to do in order to keep that verification until we find a different and a better way to kind of keep it together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say in this day and age, at this moment, there are 4 human beings on the far side of the moon. Feel like this is not a problem that would be insurmountable in terms of some sort of technological solution.
Keep in mind that Outlook failed on them twice.
Yeah, and they're having
Surprised.
It has.
yeah. They had some other problems.
Microsoft Outlook failed twice for them while they were in space.
Well, just don't use Outlook then to use it.
Right.
Do this, something else.
Yeah. I think once you do it and do a run through, doing it going forward is relatively easy. It's just going to be one of those where you got to check. Now, I think the difference between like say the senior center versus like a rec program is that the rec program you may have 600 kids come in within a very short window, so that might be a little bit tough.
No, I'm not. I mean, I guess that my question is more along the lines: have we solved the issue or not? So it doesn't sound like we quite had come up with it.
I think we could figure it out.
To me, it doesn't seem like and I think I'm not opposed to it. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think that what we would do is want to run a sample just to see. So, for example, we know 700 plus are already. It's easy to say that they're out of city. It's those with the common zip codes that could share incorporated, unincorporated boundaries. And doing that, we can plot them. The easy ones are going to be hard to pick up or easy to spot if they've got a 29605, but they're on, they're in Braymore. I mean, it's pretty easy to spot on a map versus if they're in Arden Woods.
Just ask them to bring their paid tax receipt.
Or we can do that too, because a lot of those folks will sign up in person.
Yes.
A lot of those folks sign up in person for the senior center. Yeah. So
I think this issue is probably easier than the youth sports issue, which I think is an issue because if we are going to charge 2 different rates, then we also need to make sure we're charging them appropriately. I don't have any issue with this. Was the suggestion to be around $10 a month?
$10 a month, that's correct.
And I think that's appropriate. And reality is the first 2,000 times that you have to deal with it will be laborious. And then after that, it'll change within a few percentage points each year.
Yeah. I mean, we're just asking for a little bit of skin in the game for a very great program and service that we offer that our residents are paying for, whereas the non-residents, they get to enjoy it. But
well, I don't want to be calloused here, but if you lose 2,000 members, the funding would be the same.
Right.
I mean, I know that's the way that sounds, but I don't mean it that way. But the reality is, I do think it makes some sense for them to have skin in the game. the folks who live here pay taxes.
And if you're
We do
talking-
all the things to help fund it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and if you're talking about 755 people at $10 a month, that's less than 10 grand a year. So it's not like it's certainly not a cash grab. Like no one, I mean,
And I'm understanding the intent to not be the 755, it's the out of.
No, the 755 are the non-residents. So those will be the
Gotcha.
ones who, yes.
So the 755 are the residents.
no, they're the non-resident.
I'm sorry, I misread that.
About a quarter, a little more than a quarter
Okay.
of the attendees are non-residents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I noted that wrong. Either way, the number's the same. I completely agree. What do we need to do?
And if
Yeah.
I may, if this is something that committee or council agrees on, then what we would do is just put it in the fee schedule. That be along with the annual budget each year. And that's all we would have to do is just include it in the fee schedule along with the annual budget each year.
And if all 755 paid each month for 12 straight months, we're looking at about 90,000 in revenue, which would be about a quarter of the cost to run the senior center. They're using about a quarter of the services there. So
Again, I don't want to, I'm sorry, Chairman.
It's okay. Go ahead.
And I don't want to discourage, obviously, people from coming because there's a cost, but it is important to spread that out among those who do live here and pay that cost in their property taxes and vehicle taxes and every time they go out to eat and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which is why it was important to point out that the bulk of the funding comes from the general fund, which is
It does.
or through tax. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
The few follow-up questions I have, when we say that we have 2,792 active members, what is the definition of an active member?
My definition of an active member, if they're coming 2 to 3 days a week.
2 to
Like-
3 days.
If they go to Lady Di's exercise class 3 days a week, I would consider that an active member. If they're playing pickleball every Friday, I consider them an active member. If they're coming at least 7 times a month, I would say that would be an active member, if that's answering your question.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it wasn't defined as, well, this is someone who showed up in the last 12 months. Because that one I wouldn't consider an active member because they showed up one time in January, but then they show up one time in June and they show up one time in August.
Yeah, we had a discussion today, me, Gregory, and Willie today about that. Question is like, of those 755 that are, whatever the number is, 7 something, how many of them are coming like that each week? And that's something we can go back and look at. Tried to do that today, but we got tied up. But well, that's a great question. But I think you have a good amount of that. That's out of that 700. I think you're pretty strong on those numbers of being active.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're talking $10. The things to consider, though, that I think have been pointed out is if we can't quite figure out how to determine between someone who's in the city versus not the city, we need to be able to figure that out. If someone is coming and they come, let's say they do come and they were here 3 times a week in the month of April, but all of a sudden they head to Florida for 3 months and then they come back in August or September. Are they still paying that $10 fee, or is it just based on when they show up? Does that $10 kick in? So how are you going to do this monthly service fee? Is it like the sports center where you sign up and you just get billed regularly? Or is it something where they can pause it and say, you know what, we have a vacation home in Florida, so we're going to pause it. And then these are things that to consider when you're drafting it. I do have a little bit of a concern over it just because some of the initial thought was when you look at the immediate surrounding area, some of the other senior centers you mentioned don't charge a fee. The ones that are in the immediate area, they're coming here because they feel like they're part of this community, even if they're not. The other ones that you mentioned, Pacolet, Liberty, Campobello, those are Spartanburg County and far in Spartanburg County to come here. I would really like to know more about the why. Why do they come here? So I'm not saying that I'm opposed to the fee. It's a fairly nominal fee, and I think it makes sense. I think we have to figure out how we would collect. We would figure out how we have to track, as opposed to just saying let's throw a fee out there. Let's make sure we know how we're going to manage it and manage it well. But I would encourage, maybe over like the next 90 days, anyone who you have that's not in the city, have them fill a little survey out or something just to get an understanding of why do they come here? Is it, in fact, because our program is top notch? Well, by golly, let's get them to write a review for us while they're at it, um, or buy a home. Um, but if it is something else like, well, it's because I'm friends with Martha and Martha goes here. And so it's all really about those types of connections, or maybe there is a specific thing that's drawing them there. That will help give some additional feedback to some of the improvements that you might want to make to the senior center as well, because that helps us understand what we're going to draw. But Michael, you put it well. Even if we charged a fee and all of a sudden everybody stops coming, it's not a loss. We still have a great facility that's going to serve a core. So I'm not at all opposed to it. So that's my take.
Appreciate that, sir. I think something else we need to consider and figure out how to balance this is that if they're a non-resident and they're using like silver sneakers or something, does that offset? Because we do get a very small fee up to a maximum. So if they're coming for a fitness class or something like that, then that could be a different way that they're offsetting their presence is instead of paying the membership fee, they're using their silver sneaker benefit to which we're getting paid. What was it, 250 or something a swipe?
Yeah, every click, every
Yeah.
time it clicks, it gets it.
Yeah, but it maxes out though, so it's not like it's 250 per day infinity. It's I want to say one of them's like $21 and there's two different ones. So, sir. No, it's okay. I know you know this more than I do, so that's why. Yeah. Yeah. So that may be a good way to say, hey, if you're a silver, well, it could one continue to have those who are silver sneakers participate, and that just offsets that participation cost. And two, if they are not silver sneakers and they're facing, they're not using that benefit versus now they've got to pay, they may say, hey, I'm going to just use silver sneakers instead and actually get involved with that program. So, yeah, I think there's some things for us to think about, but we didn't want to leave this stone unturned after the budget discussion. And we can continue to evaluate it. And I like the idea about the survey. I think that's a good point to consider. And
My waffling back and forth goes to it's a nominal fee, but it's also we're talking about seniors here, and there's limited income there. So even if we're looking at how we're going to manage this, I just am thinking if there was a widget, don't know if it exists, but if how we're managing it and we see that someone hasn't come for a month or two and they were regular visitors, that
falls off. Yeah.
it falls off, that they're not going to be regularly charged. There's apps out there like Rocket Money and everything else, right? To figure out all these things that we, as people who are not seniors, struggle to forget to cancel.
Yeah.
But if they are either having a medical issue or they're having dementia or forgetful, or they are a snowbird and they're heading to Florida, I don't want to have to charge them for something like that.
That makes a lot of sense because there are some businesses out there in the fitness world that their model is that low monthly fee that just continues to tick off every month. And then in their business model, they know that the average user it'll take them 24 months worth of payments without showing up before they actually cut the cord and say no more. So to your point, that's very important and valid. So we can look at that. And $10 was just something. It doesn't have to be that. So we'll look at that as well because there might be a better figure or a different way of doing it. I don't know.
I think the figure's fine. I don't think that's the issue for me. It's more about the implementation, making sure that we're protecting our seniors as best we can. I know we're not anybody's mama and daddy. I know that, but just protecting them as best we can and making sure that whatever income that we do have, just like anything, anytime we have like if we were to raise taxes or whatever else, the citizens expect to understand what are you going to use it for.
Mm-hmm.
And while we may not know exactly what it's going to be used for, having some ideas in the hopper of how we're going to utilize, let's say it does generate $90,000, great. What can that be used for now or in the future?
That makes a lot of sense. I think we can also look at, oh, I just had it. What was it? I don't know. But yeah, so we can do that. Oh, this is what I was going to say. So what we could do is we could add it as part of the fee schedule, but we won't implement it until we walk through and get full council support on how the program's going to work. So then that way we meet the schedule deadline, the budget deadline, because the fee schedule is part of the budget. And we could use that number as a placeholder just as like an up to, but then the implementation piece, we can continue to talk about and get the logistics right on that. So everybody's comfortable before we do it. So we'll just keep working on it.
Mr. Reynolds.
The only other thing, it does beg the question as we look at youth sports. So as we're going through this, the flip side of it is how do we get a better organization on in city, out of city? Because I do feel wholeheartedly if we are charging two different rates, the in-city residents shouldn't be taken advantage of by dishonest people if we can help that. So I think reassessing how we
I don't think those numbers are high.
they may not be, and so but I think just reassessing
it's just
some clue.
Yeah, and it's been my thing with Civic Rec is I just don't like that because it doesn't pick it up, and so and look, and I'm not speaking for Seth or Gregor here. We all three came together on this, and there's budget constraints everywhere, so we're trying to look at every way to not go. I live in the city as well, and I got my taxes too, and I paid my taxes as well, and everything's going up, and so but y'all are looking at us and say, hey, how are we going to fund this stuff? And so this is kind of one of the ways that we did that. It was in the master plan. It's not like we just sat up in Seth's office and say, hey, let's do this. We're just trying to figure out we're trying to figure out a way to keep the taxes low for everybody that lives in the city, including myself. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. My mother pays, I think we paid for my mother at Carolina Bay up in Wilmington. She pays $5,600 a month. And I have half the stuff that we're doing down there. And if you're in the city, it's free. That's the best deal in town. It's good. And they seniors deserve it. So just kind of tell you how the background of this started. So it's just really us didn't just sit around and do that. It's something we're trying to think about, trying to generate some kind of revenue to offset some of the cost of everything going up.
I understand.
And Mr. Chairman, just wanted to throw this out there as we close up on this, is that, on the rec piece, or the recreational side of the athletic side of it, is that there may come a day where we have to limit participation. So getting a better handle on in-town, out-of-town, and we may have to prioritize in-town before opening it up to out-of-towners because we just don't have the capacity and we're limited to the number of slots we can offer kids out there. So we only have so many fields, we only have so many staff members, we only have so it's a good thing, to Ms. Reynolds' point, to get a handle on that before it becomes a problem. And we're disadvantaging kids who live here and their parents pay taxes here versus folks from outside the city. So.
Well, and I'll start with Mr. Comlander started his update the way that I think your rec director should, is the parks are full as they should be. Like, that's a good thing, and that means we have to try to limit that to city residents. We limit to that, but the intent is for those parks to be full of parents, full of kids, full of opportunity, full of friendships. All those things go in hand in what make this city unique, and why. Well, Mr. Comlander didn't get a lot of praise. Andre got a lot, but why that master plan was talked about so highly, or the rec department was talked about from the master planners so highly. That's all I have. We spent way longer on this than I anticipated.
I can see the glare out of this side.
Speaking of full park.
That's what I was about to say.
All right. I think that concludes our discussion on the senior center. Second opportunity for public comment, hearing, and oh, we do have one. You wouldn't mind stating your name and your address?
And whether you're a senior.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Terry Merritt, 214 Fairfield Drive, Mauldin, South Carolina. I've been a senior technically for 20 years now. So just to give you a little bit of information, since I do participate in the senior center and at least 3 times a week, I'm familiar with the exercise program, the cornhole program, the pool program, the upstairs breakfast program that we used to have a lot more of, but we do that and the fees associated with that. A couple of questions I heard y'all want to know as far as I'll give you this info. Don't underestimate the social network that goes on within, especially the exercise programs. We pretty much know who's not there, and the inquiry as to why they're not there is either through a neighbor, a relative, a friend, a child, or whatever type thing. So they know a lot about that. The term that we're familiar with too, snowbirds. We do have some of those, and we know in the exercise class who they are. We know they're gone 90 days, usually in the summer. Ms. Sue comes back in May. So there's probably 3 to 5 of those kind of things. So we do see them. As far as how do they get there, friends do ride together. Some of the neighbors do that. Some come because they have a friend who goes and picks them up, and even they're not in the city, and they ride together. We do get a good bit of, I won't say a good bit, some participation from neighboring cities. Why? Because it's the best place in the upstate. And I have to be careful with this recommendation, but the exercise program has been in the 3 different cities I get involved in through the lady I share a pillow with, says they're coming to her exercise class because they get a real workout and the others are jokes. End of discussion. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other public comments? Hearing and seeing none, we have any committee concern? We have adjournment.
Adjourned.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We conclude at 7:01. That is our last committee for the evening.